Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on starting a business in Scotland. Wee bit of housekeeping to do first. First of all, I'm Hugh Lightbody. I'm Chief Officer for the Business Gateway National Unit. We are recording the session, so it's available for folks who can't make it, so be aware of that. Also, all delegates have been placed on mute to avoid any background noise. And I would encourage you to submit questions as we go along for the panel. And you'll find the opportunity to do that on the right of your portal, on the Q&A bit, or within the discussion forum. So I would really encourage you to do that and get a bit of dialogue and discussion going for the panel. And with me today on the panel, I have Mike Duncan, Development Manager for Federation of Small Businesses, Barry McCulloch, who's a Senior Manager for the British Business Bank, and Amee Ritchie, who's the founder of Sweet, and we'll be hearing a wee bit more from them in a moment. Why are we here? Well, starting up a business can be very overwhelming. And what do you need to think about? How do you make that first step, and what challenges might you encounter? And hopefully, through the debate and the discussion we have today with the panel, we'll begin to tease some of that out. And as I say, answer any questions that you fire into the chat. So first of all, what I'd like to do is invite the panel one by one to tell us a wee bit more about the organisation. So Amee, can I start with yourself?
Yeah, of course. So good morning, everyone. My name is Amee and I'm the co-founder of Sweet. At Sweet, we create the world's first reusable water bottle made from plant-based materials. We're also a certified social enterprise. So with every sale, we plant a trackable native tree, either in the customer's name or an organization's name, because we also offer corporate branding as well. So we work with individuals and businesses.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amee. Barry, come to you next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Barry McCulloch, the Senior Manager at the British Business Bank. And for those who don't know, the British Business Bank is the UK's economic development bank, owned by the UK government and independently managed by the fab folk at the bank. And our mission is to drive growth and prosperity across the UK and enable the transition to net zero by providing finance to SMEs. And just to burnish my credentials just a tad, I know Mike's going to do this as well. I also fell into starting a business in 2008, so I'm well aware of what it's like in those early days, and quite well able to provide advice on that front.
Brilliant, thanks, Barry. And last but by no means least, Mike.
Thank you, Hugh. A wee bit. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Duncan. I'm the Development Manager for the Federation of Small Businesses in Scotland. I cover a quarter of Scotland. Between the Tay and the Spey is my patch. So there are 3 other development managers for the FSB. Today, I'm mostly going to be covering some of the lobbying and policy work that we do, also some of the business networking, business-to-business networking through the FSB, and a little bit about the advice and expertise we can provide to people just starting out on their new business venture. I can add to that, similar to Barry, I did start my own business back in 2012. I used Business Gateway services, so I can talk a little bit about that. I grew the business and then I closed the business 3 years later. So a good bit of experience there, Hugh.
Excellent, that's brilliant. Thanks, Mike and Amee and Barry. So, as I said earlier, folks out there listening in, your questions would be very much appreciated through the Q&A or the discussion forum on the right of the portal. But for the moment, I'm going to get the discussion going with some questions to our panel. And I suppose really, given the topic we're here to cover, the first thing I'd like to know from everyone is, why is Scotland a great place to start a business? And I'm going to come to Amee first, because obviously she's running her business just now.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. For me, and my experience through starting up, I think Scotland's a great place to start up because of the amount of funding and the amount of support that is available. You know, I have friends who are in other parts of the world and they don't have the access to the amount of support and the amount of funding that we do here. So I think, you know, take advantage of that and look at the options, because as I say, there's so much out there and, you know, it's unique to Scotland.
Brilliant, thanks, Amee. Mike, what's your perspective on it from FSB or from your own personal experience?
Hugh, I think we're an entrepreneurial people. I think we've got that spirit in us to do the best that we can for our families and for ourselves. We have really good ideas, really good dreams, but they're kind of practical dreams, grounded dreams. And I think we look forward to putting that sort of thing into practice for small businesses. We're also well educated, and we're well educated in different ways. We're also good with our hands. We're good at practical skills as well. And we have a diverse culture in Scotland that are good at lots of different things. And when you take that into the mix, then you're going to get good businesses that stem from that, I would say.
Okay.
And I mentioned to you before also, the small business owners sometimes just need the spark to get going. And that can be something that we're good at igniting that spark in ourselves and in others.
Okay. Barry, a perspective from yourself?
Yeah, I suppose, see if you've got a great idea, it doesn't matter where you are, right? So that's the first thing I would say. But setting all that aside and just building on the previous panelist point, Scotland's a great place to start a business because of the volume of free support available. Free support that's been funded for a long time to make it easier for you to start a business and to grow it. So that's whether that's through the likes of Business Gateway, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, South of Scotland Enterprise, through to what we do at the British Business Bank or the Scottish National Investment Bank. So I think, as Amee said, take advantage of it. Don't keep your head down. Have a wee look, talk to people. I think on top of that, within the private market, there's so much support. Accountants, business advisors, investors, membership bodies, consultants who can write bids for government grants, who can win you public contracts. We've got great universities, we've got a fab college network. And I think I just end by saying that Scotland's ecosystem is really friendly and collaborative. And I think that's what sets us apart a little bit. And so have that conversation, send that message on LinkedIn, because 9 times out of 10, the person's going to get back to you and try and help you.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, that was really good. I'm going to be slightly controversial now, because for some folks like me who are rather long in the tooth in all of this, we remember 3 decades ago, something like that, we had a business birth rate strategy because the concern was we weren't getting businesses developing fast enough. Now, I am interested in that the recent National Strategy for Economic Transformation, we are also saying we need more businesses to start. So let me ask the question, with all that support that you've identified and that spirit and that enthusiasm, what is it you think that's holding us back from actually achieving that higher business birth rate? So I'm going to come to Barry first on that one.
Well, you do like to be a contrarian, Hugh, don't you? So look, I think every government in any developed economy wants more businesses created. I don't think Scotland's unique in that regard. Its start rate is okay, if we're being honest. It could be better.
Yeah.
I think what's stopping it in some ways is trying to get people to be more comfortable to take that step. And within that, I think it's really difficult to influence that decision that someone will make at a kitchen table or in their bedroom or in their garage. I think it's really hard. And I think that the only thing that long term will unlock that is the education system. You're looking at deep cultural, generational change, which I think is coming, by the way, trying to encourage more people to start a business, that it is a normal thing to do. I think that if you happen to live in a less vibrant part of the country where start rates are low, there's not many role models, you might not even know what starting a business is, what it practically entails. So I think the more that we can make our communities better places, businesses will come from that. I think it's really difficult to just isolate one aspect, startups, local economies, let's fix them. You have to fix the education system. It all has to be working together so that it's a viable option for everyone.
Yeah, a whole system approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really good answer. Amee, I could see you nodding away there, so I'm taking it that you're fully agreeing with that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything Barry said. And actually, I can really relate to a lot of that. I was from, not a very wealthy area of East Lothian. And when I was in high school, I had never heard anyone talk about starting a business. There was never any information about that. No one really spoke about that. It was just, you go to college or you can go to uni or you just get a job. That was the only options available. And again, there was a real lack of role models there. In fact, I actually kind of see my role models from places online, like influencers and YouTubers and things like that. And that's how I totally was exposed to the world of starting a business. And then it kind of knocks your confidence because you don't know where to go, or are you strange? Are you weird for wanting to do this? Like, people might not take you seriously, or they might just think, just go and get a normal job, and live your life that way. So yeah, I totally can relate to what Barry was saying, and I think that is where we could have more support in Scotland.
Good, thanks for that, Mike.
If I can come in, excuse me. My upbringing was a little bit different from Amee. So I grew up in a household that had a small business taking the money in. My dad, he was a plumber with the local council, and he flicked a coin one day, and it was either heads or tails. Will I start up on my own? And I think I was pretty much just born at the time, and it landed a certain way up. And he decided to start up his own plumbing and heating business, and he ran that business for about 35 years. So I grew up with that kind of small business mentality, and I think that did help me when it came to me starting my own business. I had him to turn to for the good and the bad advice. But I think that was maybe the kind of spark that I had, because I had, and my dad's brothers and sisters as well. They were tradesmen and they were small business people, and it kind of rubbed off on me, I think. But when I spoke before about needing that spark, needing that kick to start your own business, it's all different for everyone. For some people, it could be redundancy. For example, they find themselves out of work, and that's the first time they reflect on the actual skills they have in themselves and think about how they can put that into a small business. But for me, it was my age. For some unknown reason, I thought, right, I'm 30, I better start a business now, or I'll never do it. It's a crazy thing to think, because you can start a business at any age. But that was the wee spark in me that made me kick off and get in touch with Business Gateway and take my plans forward. So it's different for everyone.
Brilliant. Absolutely. No, that's great, Mike. Thanks for that. I'm just reflecting on something you'd said there, Barry, as well, about the different areas and different parts of Scotland and the kind of experiences. I was actually quite intrigued to see Audit Scotland being reported on BBC yesterday in regard to Western Isles Council, and particularly the work that the Business Gateway there had done in helping people start businesses at a higher rate than anywhere else. And that was fascinating to read about that. Really delighted to see that, obviously. Building on what Mike has just said there about that kind of different, it's different strokes for different folks about that's driving you, and that might be need and it might be opportunity and so on. Where should an aspiring business owner begin? So Amee, I'm going to come to you.
I think there's probably many avenues to go down. For me, I seen a TV ad for Business Gateway, and then I literally just went on the website, found the local office, got in touch there, and that was the perfect solution. That was exactly what I needed. I met with my advisor at the time, and then they were able to point me in lots of different directions to lots of other organizations that can provide support, and also look at different areas of my idea at the time. I'd never even told anyone this idea. So they were able to kind of make me focus on different areas and really, really think about what I needed to do in order to make this idea a reality. So yeah, I'd say, just contact your local office and meet an advisor. It's free.
Yep, brilliant, good answer. Thanks for that. Mike.
I think you just need to speak to people that are already in business. And that's one thing the FSB can do to open up our business network to new starts. But even if you've just completed your apprenticeship, so you're now a qualified whatever, plumber, joiner, whatever that might be, and you're thinking about starting up on your own, speak to your older colleagues who have maybe thought about it before. If you can, speak to your boss about how he runs his business. Speak to other tradespeople who run businesses. That's the best thing to do. Just speak to people who have done it already. They will give you the best advice. I am yet to meet a small business owner who is not happy to talk about their business and what they've learned and what they've gone through. So that's where I would start. What you might not want to do is speak to my wife, because every business plan I had, she picked apart for me into little bits. But that obviously been a bit facetious there. Speak to your friends and family as well, and they will definitely give you the best advice too.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. Barry, from your perspective, that first step, what do you think that should be?
So I'll tell you what the first step isn't, and this is contrary to what's out there. It's not a business plan, right? You know, one of my friends who founded and sold a food business famously says, I say famously to me, no business starts with a business plan. And, you know, they're 100% right. I mean, it might come, but that's much later. I mean, the first step, Mike, you mentioned this before, it's different for different people. You know, some stumble into self-employment. Others start it as a side hustle, which I think is a good way to do it, where you've got the security of paid employment. Yeah. But you can also do some research, do a bit of consultancy, buy and sell on the side. Others consciously start a business, perhaps out of redundancy or because of a gap in the market. But I think the main thing that has to be there before you take that first step is passion. Because you're going to live and breathe it. It will be your life. For the duration of that business, you will live and sleep it. You will talk to everyone about it. You'll wake up, you have dreams. It will occupy every aspect of your life, good and bad. So you have to like what you do. You know, just make sure you pick the right idea. That's my number one advice.
And I suppose what I would say to that is sometimes difficult to pick the right idea. Do something, try it. If it's not right, fail fast, move on, do something different, use the learning, use the experience, build on it.
Absolutely. I mean, what you start out thinking as a business, 8 months later might not be, and that's okay. Don't be locked into that idea, even if you need to rebrand, remarket. It doesn't matter. You know, think about the long term. Fail fast is a good way to think about it, Hugh.
Hugh, okay. if I could possibly build on what Barry was saying there about not needing that business plan right from the very start. I think sometimes the mistake people can make is, or one of the barriers that are there to going to the business gateway service, is they think they have to have it all written down already. They don't want to look daft. They don't want to go to someone and ask all these questions that they don't know the answer to. They've not written it down. But it's the complete opposite that the business gateway service is. It lets you sit down and just have a chat with someone about how you might bring this business forward. And sometimes it can be a barrier if people don't realize that they're just a person at the other side of a table or the other side of a phone or a computer like this that want to help them build their business the best way.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we've done in the last 2-3 years is introduce, as part of the Business Gateway service, our planning to start tool. And that allows people who are just even thinking about starting a business to work their way through a useful online tool, helps them get their thoughts together, helps them begin to understand where are the gaps in my knowledge, where are the gaps in my experience. And it kind of then points them to the opportunities within all the webinars that we run, which are really about building the foundations for your business, where to go, where to get the help. So I would suggest a first step for folk thinking is the planning to start tool on the Business Gateway website. We have a question in from Michaela. Michaela's asking, what social groups and or organisations are lobbying the Scottish Government to alter the educational curriculum to include entrepreneurial business development? And I guess, Michaela, the answer to that is it's actually within the National Strategy for Economic Transformation. Barry touched on this. It is very much recognised that we need to do more within the educational system to do that. So it's kind of inherent within the strategy. So it's now down to well, local government from an education point of view, Scottish government from an education point of view, to build that in to make that happen. So that's where that's going to get driven from. And as a kind of follow up there from Michaela, is there diversity promoting in Scottish entrepreneurship? I would certainly say that if we look at the stats for Business Gateway startups, we are punching well above our weight in terms of ethnic minority startups within Scotland. So it's happening by default. The support is there and people are coming to pick that up. Okay. Any other sort of comments on that one from anyone in terms of that? Who's lobbying? Who's doing anything? I mean,
Yep.
A lobbying body. Mike, let's come
that
to
would,
you.
that would
What
help.
are you guys doing?
Well, just so happens I was in a meeting yesterday, and Banff College were in that meeting, the Robert Gordon University were in that meeting, and Aberdeen College were in that meeting. And we were generally just speaking about how we can get people to use the services they have. And a lot of it was about how we can encourage employers to get their staff into those kind of learning opportunities, because access to the right kind of workers is an issue for businesses as well. But it's also about getting like we said, the right mindset of the business owners themselves. So as people are learning maybe a vocational skill or a management skill, are they actually being encouraged to put that into a small business setting, their own business, or are they thinking, right, I have to work for a Shell or a BP or a bigger organization? So yeah, you're right. There is education opportunities in there as well.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. Just to say to folks, obviously, lots of questions coming through now. If we don't get to them in the course of our session here, we will get back to you on them. So don't worry about that if we don't get to your particular one. I'm going to pick up the point from Lindsay, who's making the point, great point from Amee, starting a business, not covered as a career option when she was at school. Now 50 and would like to start a small business, as a bit disillusioned with current job, but put off starting up as it feels like we're going into a recession and people are struggling for money. Don't disagree with that at all, Lindsay, in terms of the circumstances and the situation we're in. However, what I would say to you, as we said, it's about need, it's about opportunity. And if you go back to 2008, the financial crash, there was a wee bit of a lag, but a couple of years after that, we saw the highest number of startups being supported by Business Gateway because people were basically having to get out there and start a business. So don't be discouraged. Don't let it put you off. Use the support that's there. Find out if it's right for you. Use Planning to Start tool. Go through that, work your way through it, and see how you feel. See what you talk to folk, as folk have said this morning, to get a feel for that. You know, who knows? It might be the right thing for you just now. So have a wee think about that. Okay, so just checking what else is coming through. Okay, Michaela saying you can also start a business in Scotland if you're unemployed. Universal credit is a self-employment option and have support to assist you develop your business while still being financially supported. So there you go. Brilliant. So where are we? We talked about the kind of first steps. What are the most common mistakes made by startups? And Amee, I'm going to come to you first. You may have some tales to tell.
Oh, I've made so many mistakes. But I think something I hear quite often is people waiting until everything's perfect, until everything's done, like the panelists were just saying as well. Waiting until they've got a business plan, waiting until they know all the answers to all the questions. I think that's a big mistake. You're never going to know all the answers until you've ran your business for a while and you kind of learn from that. And then B, that perfect day is just never going to come. Especially if you're a perfectionist or, you might lose an opportunity because you just waited. So I would say just literally get out there with what you've got, give it a go, and you'll learn from your mistakes, and that's the best way to learn.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Amee. The mistakes are the best way to learn. And I was speaking to an optician Lossiemouth. And that's exactly what she said to me. She said, I have learned the most through the mistakes and through the kind of trials and tribulations that I've gone through. And she tried to find the positive where she could. And we were speaking about how an optician works through COVID, for example. And she managed to double her turnover in COVID because she started dispensing in people's homes. She was taking people's glasses to them. She was trying to help people get their sight tests done. So there are opportunities in diversity. Opportunities in when there are issues, there are opportunities there. But yeah, Barry touched on it earlier. One of the mistakes I made was that I left my employed work too soon before I was ready to start my business. I think that might be one of the things that annoyed my wife a bit more. I didn't have that stream of money coming in to help support the family. I thought I was going to take over the world straight away with my small tour company doing whiskey tours in Speyside, and that didn't quite happen. But still, I learned from that. It gave me the kick I needed to get out there and find the customers, and that's what I tried to do.
Brilliant. And just picking up the kind of comment from Michaela about the kind of lobbying there, Yvonne's made the point that just to add, the entrepreneurial opportunities and activities for pupils of all ages is included within the curriculum for excellence frameworks. That's a really good point, Yvonne. Thanks for that. Okay, now Myri is wondering about what the first administrative step is. She's got an idea. She has interest, she has potential clients, but she doesn't know whether to register with Companies House first or secure a business banking account or other. Well, obviously, my advice on that one, Mary, would be contact your local business gateway office and have a chat with them about it. But given that interesting question about business banking account, I'm going to ask Barry for his thoughts on this.
Thanks. I mean, as opposed to the question, there's no wrong answer here. I don't think. I mean, you can speak to your advisors, check out Business Gateway, take their advice, but do what's right for you. Do it in the sequence that's right for you. And I mean, when it comes to business banking, opening an account as a startup is not an easy thing just now. So you might be waiting a while. There's a big backlog. The banking market has gone through a massive change if you think of the impact that COVID has had on it through the distribution of bounce back loans. And so there's a lot currently going through the system. And so I would say if you are interested in opening a business bank account, look at the options. Don't just go to who you are with your personal banking. That might be the right option, it might not, but shop around. There's good advice on the British Business Bank's website. And when you do find the right account, other thing to think about as well is just get that application in. So if it is going to take several months, get that application in. But at the same time, don't let it stop you. I think I was maybe year 2 before I realised I needed a business bank account. You make these mistakes, right? And you read these books, and sometimes you can almost talk yourself out of doing it and realise that you don't fit this perfect model. And I suppose just to go back to that previous conversation, because it's quite relevant, take advantage of the free tools that are out there, especially on the accountancy side. There's some really great software options out there that can make it so much easier. So when you get to that self-assessment deadline, you're not stumbling about for 2,200 receipts. There's ways in which you can do that using digital technology, and just take advantage.
Yeah. Really good thinking. And just thinking about the comment there from Mary about registering with Companies House, it kind of depends on what the structure of your business should be. Is it a sole trader? Is it a partnership? Is it a limited company? And again, Business Gateway and other folks out there can help you get your head around what the differences are and what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's your decision. People will not make the decision for you. That's up to you, but they will certainly give you the advice and guidance on the differences. Any other thoughts on that one from Mike or Amee in terms of that kind of administrative step? Of any experience of that in what you've been doing?
No, you're quite right, Hugh. There are lots of different places where you can get that advice and that support, and FSB provides similar support. You will find there's replications through a lot of the bodies, but through our financial hub and our legal hub, you can get support and information about how to set up your business and what will be best for you. You can pick up the phone and speak to a legal advisor, someone who knows Scots law and thinks and is able to, because you're a small business owner, you're not expected to know the law inside out, but you can get advice on what you need to do, what would be best. We also have one of our member benefits, free business banking through the cooperative banks. It can be quite a shock to some business owners that they have to start paying for their banking, but that's just the way it goes as a business service, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The co-op helps our members out.
Good. Amee, any thoughts from yourself on that one?
I would just say I was in the exact same situation when we first started. I was also only, I think I was around 18 years old. So I didn't even know anything about banking. I had only just opened my own personal accounts.
Wow.
So yeah, I would say I totally had no idea. And I just asked my business gateway advisor at the time, what steps do I need to do? I think I set up Companies House first because I believe you needed those details to give to the bank in order to set up the account. But yeah, he walks me through all like, just do this, and this sort of thing. And that really helped. But again, it does depend on the structure of your business and if you want to be self-employed or a limited company like the others said.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And another we have two Michaelas watching today. So another Michaela has said, having recently done this themselves, they've opted to go limited company straight away, and is advising you need your company registration number to get a bank account. Online banks will set you up within 2 days. And in her case, Monzo. There are other banks available, I must say that, that from a fairness point of view. So moving on, Lynn is asking, how important is market research and how do you go about it? A brilliant question, Lynn. I'm going to go to Amee with that one.
I'm probably not the person to ask on this one because I wouldn't say I'd done much intense market research. I would often be told from, hearing from other entrepreneurs or just from advisors and things that like market research is key. You need to invest in knowing who your market is. And I absolutely agree with that. But I think, again, it can be a little bit of a kind of stop and block for some people. And I got really kind of stuck on that point of like, well, how do I know who my market is when I've not sold anything yet? So what helped me was actually launching a pre-sale crowdfunding campaign. I literally just said, this is my idea, this is the product I'd like to create, and in order to do so I need £10,000. So people could pre-order, and that would obviously help me towards the goal of £10,000. And I only had 30 days to do that, which was crazy. If I didn't hit the goal of 10,000, everyone would just be refunded and it would just be cancelled. So it was really, really intense. But that gave me so much information into who the people were that were purchasing, even the people who were sharing it and interacting with it. And then also opened doors for future opportunities as well after people had seen it and spreaded the word. So if you can do that, I'd say that's a really, really good way, especially if you've not got a lot of funds to begin with. But yeah, I think market research is super important. I just don't think you need to sort of overthink it.
Okay, thanks, Amee. Mike?
When I started my little business in tourism, I had never been involved in tourism in my life. I didn't know where to start. I just thought it was a good idea for a business. So I looked about at what was available locally. And at the time, there wasn't that much available locally. And I thought about where I was going to place my business. So I was wanting to go for the bigger spend, the prestige customers. When I bought my tour vehicle, I bought a Land Rover Discovery to do my tours. But then I still didn't know what customers was it? How was I going to attract them? How was I going to get there? How was I going to get them to email me and get me to build an itinerary for them and take them around the distilleries? But then I found Business Gateway. I'm pretty sure you want to speak about what the tools Business Gateway have for market research. Yep. But for me in tourism, it was Visit Scotland. And I was able to go to Visit Scotland and see the breakdown in my area and where the tourists were coming from. Then over time, once I started my business, I managed to realize how important different things were to different sectors. For example, TripAdvisor was so important to visitors coming in from America. They really went on the fantastic reviews I had on TripAdvisor got me lots of repeat tourists coming from the United States. So as you build your business, you also learn where your best customers are going to come from. You don't have to know it all when you first make that first step on day one.
Absolutely. You did trail me a little, so I'm going to use that. One of the things that one of the services we offer, Lynn, is market insight reports. So what I would suggest is, basically have a look on the website. There's a phone number there. Give it a call. Indicate what you're looking for by way of a market insight report, and follow that up and see if that helps you get a kind of sense of your market. But in terms of your question, how important is market research? It's crucial, absolutely crucial, because if you are trying to sell a product or a service and you do not know whether the customer is going to buy it or want it, that doesn't really help you get the business off the ground. So you need to understand if there is a market for what you want to do. But as I say, I would encourage you to go on the website and basically there's a, as I say, phone number on their Business Gateway website, bgateway.com. There's a phone number there. Give it a call and get a market insight report. Okay.
Can I come in on that?
Yeah, of course you can, Barry. Of course you can.
Just briefly, I suppose, like, you're potentially going to take a big leap. You're going to change a big part of your life. You might be using some savings. You might be taking out external finance. So just spend a bit of time on the fundamentals. As Hugh said, is there demand for what you're going to do? And if there isn't, that's not necessarily a problem, but you do need to make sure there could be demand, because you might have a USP that's not served in the Scottish market. Next thing is, like, who's in your market? Look at your competitors, spend time digging into them and what they're doing. You might find that if you just change one or two bits, you could get a march on them. And in doing that, also think global as well. So when you're doing your Google searches, other search engines are available to cite you from earlier on. There might be something that's very popular in the Danish market, and it's not here. You don't always need to start with a fresh piece of paper, and it's amazing what you can find just spending a bit of time playing about with keywords on Google and then talking to others in the sector. You would be surprised how warm the response from some of your competitors might be, because they might have demand that they can't service. So have that chat. That might seem slightly backward, but it isn't in many ways, especially in some local economies in Scotland, where there's a real limit to what some businesses can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really helpful. Mike is asking, does the Co-op Bank integrate with any account software? Good question. Does any of the panel know?
It's a bit technical for me, I'm afraid. But what I would advise Mike to do is get in touch with FSB. Go onto our website, get in touch with our membership services, membership@fsb.org.uk. Ask the question, because they will get straight back to him with an answer.
There you go. That's that one. Now, Seku is asking, he's an ethnic minority with a PhD. He's got broad experience in lab management. What will make me get funded based on my project skills and experience, but not on his skin color? That's a really interesting question, Seku. Barry, do you want to kind of pick that one up?
Yeah, and I also see, Seku, that you've also asked another question about the advice that you've had from a BG advisor. So I suppose trying to combine both of these, if you've spoken to an advisor and they're recommending a course of action and you think that advice is sound, then I would probably follow it. Again, not a bad thing to have another conversation. If you do have access to support within a university, otherwise, the more people, as Mike said, you could talk to, the better. And I would just, you might have a hunch as to what you should do, but if professionals in the market are advising you to do in X, Y, and Z, I would take your advice. And in terms of what gets your project funded, it's all about what you're trying to do, how you're going to achieve it, how achievable is it in the timescales, and it's all about your skills and your experience and what you bring to that conversation. You're building on what else has happened in the market and what you can bring that's not been tapped into to date. So just keep going, keep tracking on. It will happen.
Hugh, can I come in
yeah,
on the back of what Barry was saying there? I'm just thinking about when I got finance for my business. I was under the impression that you've got your business case and it's solid, and well, you hope it's solid. You put it into the bank, you're told yes or no. That's it. If you get told no, you just walk away. But from my experience with working with Business Gateway, that's not the way it works. You can actually, if your Business Gateway advisor is with you and has that relationship with the banks that are round about him, with the banks that they can access, British Business Bank, like Barry there. If that relationship is in place, then you can go back and forth. You can discuss your business case. You can speak about changes to it that might make it easier for you to get that loan, to get that finance that you need to bring your business on. I needed £25,000 to start my business. And it was through the contact that, and also other business banks are available, but other banks are available, but it was through the relationship my Business Gateway advisor had with the membership advisor at the Royal Bank of Scotland that got me that money that I needed. And they are crucial links to make use of if you need to get funding.
No, that's really good. I mean, we spoke earlier, you made the point, you don't necessarily need a business plan to get going. But you do need a business plan if you're going for funding, particularly with a bank. So the question that Seku's asking there, the follow-up question, he's been advised to have a strong business plan to get funded. Absolutely, totally would agree with that. What's the key he's asking? Is it the cost or the market or the product or all three? And I guess my feeling on that, Seku, would be it is all three. But, how much are you asking for? Is there a strong market case? Are you going to be able to sell the product or the service? And what is the product? And that comes back to, is there a market for it? So for me, it's all three. Is any one more important than another? Probably not. But I'm keen to see if anyone else in the panel's got a thought on that. My view is all three are important.
Yep.
And I'm seeing nods from Barry and Mike.
From my point of view, I just think you have to demonstrate that you've thought through absolutely everything that you think can happen to that business. You have to be able to demonstrate that you are the right person that should receive this funding. And I'll say again, the best way to do that is not to speak to a computer, but to speak to a person and get that relationship going, so that they understand a bit more about you. That's one of the things that's difficult with in the past. You might have just walked in and spoken to your bank manager in your bank, but things have changed since those days. But you still need to find a person, I would say.
Yeah, and nice. Seku's come back. Thanks for the encouragement, guys. Very supportive. You're very welcome, and best of luck with that. Absolutely. Lynn is saying, are there any implications with starting a business from home? She's planning to set up a complementary therapy business and think to keep costs down, see how it goes, like to start at home. Very sensible approach, Lynn, in terms of that. Keep the costs down to begin with. Are there implications with starting a business from home? Depends how much of your home you're using for the business, because I think somewhere in amongst there is non-domestic rates potentially has an impact. So there's a scale of how much of your home is getting used. Anybody on the panel get any further kind of thoughts on that one?
I was just thinking maybe insurance wise, there might be something to look at there. I previously studied beauty therapy myself, and I know a lot of people that went into that, and just getting insurance could be a little bit tricky sometimes, but that's the only thing that I kind of thought about on that. Okay,
no, that's grand. Mike or Barry? Yeah, Barry?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I suppose the first thing, Lynn, is that look, lots of people start and run businesses working from home. Upwards of 40% of all businesses in Scotland are based from the home. It's a good way to do it, so long as you have the structure and the discipline, and you create barriers between home life in your professional life, and that's really important. I think that is an implication to think about, because you do need to build you do need to build some walls between what you do, within your office or your studio and what you do elsewhere. I think that there's, as Amee said, there's some insurance potentials. I would also look at, contact the local authority. You might need to designate a section of your house a business, and from that you might be eligible for non-domestic rates reliefs. And then also look at from that your broadband packages. There's, in a way, imagine that you are running a business outside of your home and go on that basis. And I think certainly on the tax side, when you go to try and, when you're going through the self-assessment process, the more that you can create distinctions between what you do as a business owner and what you're doing in your personal life, the easier it's going to be. Because if you 12 months in are expensing something for, let's say, £40 a month or £60 a month for broadband, and you can't see the extent to which you've used that broadband because it's not a business contract, you're going to get yourself potentially into not tricky territory, but you won't get it covered as a business expense. So make sure it is a legitimate business expense and you're treating it accordingly. But starting a business from home, great idea. Lots of people do it. Do it.
Yeah. There you go. Useful. Okay, I am going to turn to Mike. Why do you think small businesses should consider joining the Federation of Small Businesses?
Thank you for asking, Hugh. I appreciate that. There are three main things that the FSB does that I think are useful. One of them I didn't even think about when I started my business, and it is that lobbying side. That's the FSB are there to speak to the politicians, the councillors, MSPs, MPs on your behalf. I didn't think about that when I started my business. When I first wrote my business plan, you're kind of taking a snapshot of what things are like just now. And as I said, I did a small group tour company, which was a kind of grey area. I wasn't a taxi, so I didn't need a taxi license. I wasn't private hire, so I didn't need to have 2 MOTs a year. And yeah, I was kind of a tour guide, but I didn't need to go through any qualifications for a blue badge to do it kind of officially. But any of that can change. And sometimes your business plan thinks about how your business can change, but it doesn't actually think about how the business environment itself can change. And as we have seen recently, it can change very quickly and make a difference. It would just take a new administration at the council for somebody to suddenly think, oh, these tour boys, they need to do the MOTs. It's not safe having their vehicles on the road, or they need to have a license. And that would have made a huge difference to how much I had to pay out. So what I didn't realize at the time was, at a local level, FSB would have been there for me and any other tour guides in the area who suddenly found that they were being charged these extra things. I could pick, well, the role I'm in now would be the person that would speak to the council, the councillors, the decision makers to make a change there. And that lobbying is happening at a local level, as I just described, but then our policy office in Glasgow are speaking to the Scottish Government all the time about business rates, things like that, things like Barry just mentioned there. And then you've got our UK policy department speaking to the UK government about taxation and things that are UK wide. So there's the policy side. The other side is our business-to-business networking. We, at the moment, have every month online networking where, well, for us, it's the north of Scotland and the west and the east of Scotland, but anyone can join. Business doesn't have any boundaries. So if you want to join a networking event in a certain area, you can just log in and take part. And obviously through that networking, you have the breakout rooms and things as well. But the most important thing for new start businesses that FSB does is our membership advice and our membership benefits. Our legal helpline. I know myself, I have been lying in my bed worrying about legal stuff. Like some of the questions have been before, how do I set up my business? Does it need to be a partnership, a limited company? Can I work from home? What are the legalities around that? Our legal helpline this year already has had over 100,000 members calling it for advice. So that gives you an example of how that's used. We also have documents online. So if you want to employ someone and you need a contract of employment, you can download it from the FSB website, change the name and the details. There you have a contract of employment. If you're looking for risk assessments, templates like that, all available for free as part of FSB membership. So that's just a flavour. The best thing to do is go on the website. Go on the website and have a look, have a troll through, see what's what. It's very clear on there what the benefits are. And I would be surprised at, I think it's about £177 for a membership of the FSB. It goes up by the number of employees you have. So if you're a new business, it helps to get in early, because we don't check. We don't check if you have 10 employees, 20 employees in the future. You always pay that initial rate. So yeah, go on the website, have a look, or give me a phone, get in touch with me. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. I'm conscious time's getting on.
Maybe that was my fault.
Barry, no, not at all. I think it's all useful, all valuable. Barry, I'm going to come to you. What do you think are the key challenges that startups in Scotland are facing? How do they overcome them, or even turn them into an opportunity?
Yeah, look, if you look at the world around us, you could quite rationally conclude that now is not the time to start a business. I think someone said this in the chat. It sort of depends. Are you B2C? Are you going to be in retail hospitality? Maybe it isn't. I mean, that's a decision for you. But I suppose starting a business is never easy. Whether or not we're in a recession or otherwise, it's not for the faint-hearted. But there's some core challenges that you face, and speaking from experience, one of the key challenges is going to be income volatility. Right, there will be months where you're really busy, you've got lots of work, your income levels are good, and there'll be other months when it's less good, and it's coping with that, coping financially, commercially, but also psychologically, because that has a big impact on you. One of my friends describes this as feast or famine, right? You're either too busy or you just don't have anything in the door, and that's the reality of running a business. You're going to have your peaks and your troughs, and I think that in terms of how you overcome some of those challenges, if you look at them, and Mike and Amee will be able to come in on this as well, rising costs of doing business, utility bills absolutely crushing households and businesses. It's a really, really tough environment. How you overcome them: shop about for the best deal, take the advice that's out there, especially on the energy efficiency front. And in terms of turning them into an opportunity, what tends to happen is that during an economic crisis, or when there's an economic downturn, startup rates do drop, which means that if you're confident in what you're doing, there's opportunities. You need to be confident. You need to have done your research, but don't let that put you off. And at the British Business Bank, we provide startup loans to 2 businesses in Scotland and every day, and that's not slowing down. And what you can also sense as well is that because we're in for a tricky period in 2023, a lot of people go, well, now's the time to do it, to set up those fundamentals, to try and get some customers, as Amee said, to try and get some revenues in right at the start. So I think if you're confident, don't dwell too much in the challenges. Talk to your peers and your colleagues and others. They will help you find the answer.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Barry. Naomi had asked, how do we find out about the networking event? And Naomi, what we'll try and do is put into the discussion forum a link to the calendar of the events, and hopefully you'll be able to see that from the discussion forum. Michaela has asked, what has Michaela asked? Buy more woolly jumpers. Any business selling these should be winners. A good point. A good point.
I was going to wear a woolly jumper
as we head into winter.
Yeah, I was going to wear a woolly jumper for this because I'm freezing. And then my wife said, "Would you wear that in a normal conference?" To which I said, "No, I wouldn't. So I'm going to take the woolly jumper off. Maybe I should have worn it now."
I wore one yesterday for the first time. I have to say I did, because I'm a t-shirt wearer normally, and I had to put a jumper on yesterday. It was a bit chilly.
We've got just under 5 minutes remaining. I'm going to come to Amee. And a question for Amee. What has been the best piece of advice that you have received since starting your business, and what advice would you give to your past self?
An interesting one. I think a really good piece of advice I got from our financial director was to chase margin, not turnover. That really stuck with me. I often think of our profit margin, or especially when you're starting out, your profit margin is your mistakes margin. And I know before throughout this, we've been talking about making mistakes through business. So if you have that margin there, that's kind of safe, you've got the kind of room to play about and make the mistakes and learn from them. Yeah, because if you don't have that, I think it can be a bit more challenging. So yeah, I'd say chase margin, not turnover. That's what I would tell myself.
Brilliant. Really good answer. Really good answer. Okay. Mike, obviously you did for a wee while run your own business. Was there a particular piece of advice you received, and what would you give advice to your past self?
Goodness me. I was actually scared of speaking to people before I started my business. I think there was a bit of apprehension about what people might say, what people might think. And there was that thought that if someone picks my plan apart too much, then I might find that I haven't got a business after all. That kind of scared me, and that put me off speaking to people. But looking back now, the people that I obviously did speak to because I had to, that was where you get the best advice from. So just listen to all comers. You will be the best person to make decisions about your business, but just listen to all the information that you can get. Even if it's your partner, your kids, pulling everything apart, just speak to them. It'll give you an idea of where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and you can build on that for the future. So just speak to people and listen to what they say.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. Obviously, we've kind of touched on and the Willie Jumpers kind of says a lot about that. The current economic landscape is rather worrying, especially for those starting out on their business journey. Barry, is there sufficient funding out there?
Yeah, I do think there is. If to put on my policy nerd hat here, but I mean, if you look at the lending data coming out of the Bank of England, out of non-bank lenders, I mean, someone in the chat talked about online banks. There is credit out there. That credit will, of course, have become more expensive in the last few months as interest rates go up, but there is funding and support for good businesses. There always will be. The bar will have increased. If you're seeking finance, whether that's debt or equity, the tires are being kicked even more vigorously. Because they want to make sure that you're a good bet and they're going to get their money back. But for me at the British Business Bank, we deployed 12 billion in capital last year. There's a lot of money out there. It's just about finding that sweet spot and where you fit in, doing your preparedness, your product market fit, your research, and to wrap up from my end, it's also about the last question, and for me, getting ahead of the loneliness. If you operate from home, as I did, you'll get ahead of that. Know that come the winter months where it's dark, you might not be talking to people a lot. You'll try and plan for that. You might want to get out. You might want to go to cafes. Just take advantage of the free networking and just try and remember that starting a business is a human endeavor. You're going to have your ups and your downs.
Okay. Really, really good, really valuable. I'm conscious of the time. Any last minute, very small thoughts from Mike?
Just from what Barry was saying there, he spoke about those dark nights when you can't go and see people. That is when organisations such as the FSB are there for you. That's when the online networking, free members or non-FSB members can join our networking. And we are looking to do more face-to-face, but online in the dark nights. Get onto I think the link's now been shared in the chat. Have a look. If there's something you want to join in, please sign up, and I'll see you there.
Yeah, smashing. Thanks, Mike. Amee, very last minute, very short thoughts.
I would just say to anyone who's sitting here thinking that they would like to start or maybe pursue things a little bit more, just to literally get started, just make those action points that maybe you've taken from today, go forward, contact, you know, the panel members and any other contacts you might have, your gateway advisor, and yeah, just start making some action. I don't think there's ever really a better time. Yeah, I know it's a difficult time right now, but as everyone said throughout this, with challenge comes opportunity. So just go for it.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Amee. That, folks, I think is all we have time for. I'd like to thank the panel again for joining us today. That's been really good. Lots of brilliant questions from you guys out there as well. So thank you for those. It's been really enjoyable. I hope really worthwhile. I certainly feel it has been. So I hope you enjoy the rest of Scottish Business Week.
Thank you.